We're with Sir Keith Mills in the last week of October 2012. The dust has now settled on what everybody has agreed. There was a fantastic summer of sport with the London Olympics and Paralympic Games. What is the long-term legacy going to be? Not so much for East London and in terms of infrastructure, but for sport in the UK.
Well, I mean, first of all, a personal reflection, a lot of pride and a lot of relief, relief that we pulled it off, and pride that the country, I think, showed the world how passionate we are about sport. And in terms of impact on sport, I mean, I can't think of anything in my lifetime, and I suspect that counts for most of the people in the UK, that has made a bigger impact than the Olympic and Paralympic Games this summer, and frankly, we've had some other great successes too. You know, Bradley Wiggins and the Tour de France, and gosh, Andy Murray winning not only his gold medal at Wimbledon during the Olympic Games, but a Grand Slam, and then an amazing Ryder Cup. So it's been has been an amazing summer for sport, and I think sport has a great opportunity to capitalise on it now.
As a fan, looking at everything that's happened, and particularly the games, what were your personal highlights? What had you on the edge of your seat?
Well, I think they fall into two categories. I think my sporting favourite moments. I'm a bit of a sailor, and one of my buddies is Ben Ainsley, and watching him get his 4th gold medal in Weymouth by the skin of his teeth. It was a very, very tight race, was amazing. But also, we've just got some amazing sportsmen in the UK now. Chris Hoy, I was there when Chris Hoy won his last gold, and watched the tears run down his face. The moments are just countless, and I was lucky enough, because of the job that I was doing, to see a lot of them. But then off of the field of play, I think just watching the general public, walking through the Olympic Park and watching the faces of the general public, talking to the volunteers, talking to the servicemen that were manning the security desks, the whole atmosphere around the Games was just incredibly positive. And I think that we'd had the Jubilee earlier in the year, but I think the Games really set the country alight. So both on and off the field, I think we had an incredible atmosphere, and that's something that I think we'd all like to find a way of bottling up and keeping as long as possible.
What does the Games and the success of the Games, do you think, mean for the business of sport in the UK?
Well, sport before the Games was a big business in the UK. The Premier League is probably the most valuable sporting property in the world. So it's a huge business, it employs a lot of people, and the quality of those people has been, I think, improving dramatically in the last 10 or 20 years or so. It's become very much a professional industry. I think though what the Games has done has brought many, many more people in touch with sport. I mean, we had 210,000 people working during the summer on the Olympic Games, 210,000 people, and most of them were not sportsmen. They came from all sorts of walks of life, the volunteers, the contractors, the caterers, and for them, the Games was, and being close to sport was part of their lives. So we've touched a huge number of lives across the UK with sport, and I think there's an opportunity now for sport in the UK to use the Games as a springboard, both to engage more people in participating in sport, and for businesses to get closer to sport, which I think the Games has been able to demonstrate the value sport has for business.
The business of sport generally is occasionally criticised for being somewhat behind the rest of the business world in terms of professionalism and its ability to deliver. First of all, is that an opinion that you generally share? And going forward, what do you think sport and the business of sport can learn from the wider world of business and the way it operates?
Well, you're right to say that historically sport has been, I mean, sport, the people that both play sport and organise it, and many of the federations and governing bodies of sport rely on volunteers. You know, and the people that have been attracted to sport haven't necessarily got involved in it because they wanted to make money. Sport historically doesn't pay huge amounts of money to the managers of sport. The exception probably is the Premier League, but pretty much every other sport has historically been behind the rest of business. I think in the last few years that's started to change dramatically, and it is now a very big industry and has attracted some very smart people. And actually LOCOG, the organisation that I was involved with for the last 9 years, attracted the very best people. I mean, when you have the HR director of Marks and Spencer running the HR of the Olympic Games, when you have the chief executive coming from Goldman Sachs, you're getting the very, very best talent in the country involved in sport. And I think many of those people will continue. So I think the Games has provided sport with an opportunity to become a lot more business-like, and it's going to need to be a lot more business-like, particularly in the current economic climate, which I think is probably going to continue for the next 5 or 10 years or so. It's going to be tough over the next 5 or 10 years, and sport and those sports that approach their business professionally will be those that win out.